Hello everybody, this is Dan Craven with another edition of Good Sports The Next Generation. And I'm going to let you sit there and ponder a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight, and I just hope you can figure that out. If not, you might want to get a paper and pencil and maybe just take down a couple quick notes, and then after a while maybe it'll hit you. But here I am with my co-host DJ. Welcome to have you back again.
Good to be seen.
Yeah, good to be seen is right. Yeah, Dwayne Kohler is not here today. He's on a special assignment. I haven't talked to Dominic in a while, so I'm not sure what he's up to. But I guess our show tonight is going to be pretty exclusive show. It's an important show. It's something that's really close to my heart, and I think something that really people can sink their teeth into. We're going to be here at Emmig's Bike Shop here in Meadville, and our guest tonight is going to be Pat Emmig. Pat, welcome aboard.
Pleased to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, good to have you. And what we're going to be talking about today is all kinds of stuff about biking. I mean, the Tour de France was just was showing, it was just on, and I think I was seeing somewhere on TV there was something going on in Utah, or there's Salt Lake City race, but there's a lot of biking going out there, and there's a lot more to biking than you might think, and it's important stuff, not only from a safety standpoint, but there's laws out there, that make bikers safe and things you got to abide by. So, and in lieu of me trying to really make a debacle of this, we thought it'd be a good idea to come here to somebody that really knows what they're doing. So that's the plan tonight. So I'm just gonna take this helmet off here for now because it's just a little bit big. But I wanted to just give you a little hint of what we'll be talking about today. So Pat, let's just go ahead and start from the beginning. Dorothy started at that first yellow brick. I mean, how did Pat Emmig get to where he is today? I mean, what was sort of like the history of you and the love of bikes and
how it all got started?
Well,
it was back in the early 70s. My dad wasn't in too good a health at that time, and he had lost a couple of jobs because of his health. And he actually was contacted by Montgomery Ward's at the time, which was up on the top of the hill there. And they wanted him to assemble bicycles for him. So we actually started assembling bikes to do it part-time for something to do. Extra money, and then we picked up Firestone and BF Goodrich and JCPenney's and Kmart, and we started doing this. It was overwhelming and actually turned into a pretty good business at that time. In 1976, he turned the keys over to me, and we've run it ever since. So it's been like 400 years, I think we've been in the bike business.
No kidding.
Like that. Yeah.
Now, and I'm sure you've kind of seen the evolution. I mean, almost to the point where they almost started out as fat tires, and now fat tires are coming back again.
Yeah, everything seems to be coming back. When you look back at the 70s and seeing the 3-speed Tour bikes, the 5 speeds with the regular bars, now we're seeing those they call them retro now. I mean, we used to remember that was
I do.
stuff.
You can't say that, right?
But now it's actually coming back in. You see a lot more fat tire bikes out on the road. Pastel colors, like what you used to see back in the maybe early 70s, they used to have. But it all comes full circle. And we're seeing a lot more of the baby boomers riding now. That's our biggest market is baby boomers. Yeah, that's
a good thing.
Not so many young people as what we used to get because of of course, the cell phones and electronics that's available to them now.
So you were never here. I mean, where was your first location? Was it
the first shop that we had was it was about 7 miles west of Sagertown, and it was out in the sticks. But at that time, we were doing pickup and delivery, and we were actually just doing stuff out of the garages that we had. We had a huge garage, and we did all the service work there, and we'd pick it up, take it to Monkey Boards and those places. And then when we sold that place out there, we had moved onto 86, and it was out there for 10 years, from 78 to 88. And then in 88, we bought this building, which was quite a mess when we picked it up. It was just like 3 rooms. We did the repair jobs upstairs and hauled everything upstairs. It was quite an entertaining time.
What was this building before?
It actually, years ago, it was Quality Meat Market, and I think that's before both of our times, way before that.
Yikes.
And then it was Sally Almond Sports Store. Now, a lot of people probably remember Sally Almond. It was a big 2-story building, a big potbelly stove in the middle. I can remember my granddad and I, when I was probably 6 to 8 years old, he would stop here to buy bait, and then we'd head out to Oakland Beach.
Okay, yeah.
Where they had the old ship sticking out over the water and
Right.
fish for bluegill. And I remember coming in here, and I think it was in the late 70s that this burnt. And the only part that was left was just the small part where we actually have our sales counter.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
they added to it. Murphy's at that time owned it, and they were going to put a gun shop in here. And she ended up selling it to us.
Nice.
And
That's good. Now, rumor has it they call you the big wheel. Is that really the truth?
no, they call me a lot of other things. But not that.
You're like the big wheel with the big deal here. No, so we can just scratch that out of there. That's
So it's just a rumor,
That's
right?
just a rumor.
Just a rumor.
That's just a rumor that's going around the
Yeah.
biking world. Yeah. So when you hear Greg LeMond mention the big wheel, it's not Pat.
No, it's not me.
It's not you. DJ, you know how it works. Just jump in anytime you think you need to. Let's start a little bit. I mean, I'm haphazard here. You can, kind of get us in order, but let's just talk about different types of bikes just to get started. I know that, there are, and just, mountain bikes and hybrid bikes and all that kind of stuff. So here I am, just for the, the people that don't know anything with it. Just kind of touch base on what kind of types of bikes there are out there.
Well, there's still the old standard cruiser, which is like what you see from the 60s, 50s, the fat tire style bike. We still sell quite a few of those in a 6-speed recreation use. But then here a few years ago, the hybrid took over, and there's 3 or 4 different types of hybrids now. They make a sport hybrid, and that would be something that you would ride from point A to B real fast. So it's kind of like a road bicycle with a drop style bar, but straight bars, a little bit more upright, not quite as efficient as a road bike, but for the performance. Somebody that runs would be a great match for something like that.
I see.
Then there's also a recreation version of that. Cushy seat, suspension seat post, so it's got a shock in the seat. It also has adjustable handlebar up and down, so you can actually rotate the angle of the stem, which makes it very comfortable. Gearing's low, so you can climb up just about everything. So it's kind of plush, cushy thing. And then they also make one that's kind of a little bit that and a little bit of a mountain bike. And it's called like a dual sport or a cross. That's a not cyclocross, but a Cannondale's used one. It's called a quick CX. So it's kind of like a cross country thing. And then you got your road bike, similar to what you ride.
Right.
And sky's the limit to those. You can buy them anywhere from about $700-800 to $10,000-15,000. And then we also have
I didn't realize you had that.
yeah, carbon frames, titanium frames, aluminum frames, electronic shifting now, which is really good.
Yeah, that's you'll have to get into that later. Yeah.
Press the button and it goes. Then we're back to the mountain bikes as well. We have fat bikes now, fat tire bikes, tires that are 4 inches wide, mainly for maybe beach, snow, muddy conditions like we have most of the time all year here. And then we have full suspension bikes, hardtails, with the new Sandy Creek or the new Jake's Rocks trail they opened up here just last summer.
Where's
at
that?
Kinzoo. Just
Oh,
off
okay.
Kinzoo.
Kinzoo. Did
A
you?
lot of great
I didn't
reviews
know
from that. Yeah, a lot of guys are using that trail. It's been really popular, one of the best around. So definitely a place to, if you've got a mountain bike, that's a place to go. It's a hot place right now.
I have to remember that. So I have 2 mountain bikes. I bought them both here actually. One Trek and I'm out of Cannondale, but the one dropout, that was before the dropouts were aluminum replaced. They were all part of the frame,
Oh, yeah.
and it bent and
Yeah.
some sort of screwed on that one. But that's what Diane bought me another a Trek mountain bike with the front suspension. So I've always looking for a good place to go. So we'll talk about a little
Yeah,
bit
it's
more
a
of
great
that later
place.
too.
Yeah, so just out of curiosity, I mean, you mentioned the weather that we have, obviously, in this area is not ideal for riding all year round. So what can you say to the kind of the person that, is doing it for exercise and getting their heart rate up in the wintertime? Is there any kind of options that you can put it on some sort of stand of some sort and kind of go indoors,
Yes.
so to speak? Is that options as well?
There's several companies that actually make what they consider wind trainers or fluid trainers.
Okay.
And of course, the wind trainer actually just has a fan on it. There's not much control there for resistance. The best type to get is a fluid trainer. Now, the fluid actually, it's got an impeller inside an enclosed case. The faster you turn it, the harder it gets to pedal. So it gives you a real feel like you're on the road.
Okay.
They vary in price. You can buy something like that for the low 300s. Thing will last forever. Most of them have lifetime warranties on them. If you get something like that, it's great to get a heart rate monitor and try to follow some type of a training video, which usually lasts somewhere between 50 and 70 minutes. If you go past that, usually you start running the other way for productivity for riding. We had a cardiologist here for a while that was actually doing spin classes, and that's what he did, 50 to 75 minutes. And it was varied enough that it was a warm-up. There was a couple spikes in heart rate and as far as the RPMs. It didn't look like a heavy-duty workout, but physically and cardio, I guess is the cardio part of it was perfect for that time frame. But that's a great thing to do in the wintertime. You know, some of the videos you can get now, we've got one that tours around Hawaii.
Right.
Or, someplace that doesn't have snow. I'm sure we could probably do one with it, follow behind a plow truck or something.
Yeah, right.
Get
Get you the real feel for the outdoors.
Have a piece of cinder come up and hit you in the
Or you can dodge orange cones like you're out there in the highway.
That's the other thing too. So there's
State flower.
So there's a lot of things you can do in the wintertime. It's a great time also to mention that that's a great time to bring your bike in for service, because we get a blast in the spring that we get a nice day and everybody wants them, but there's also 40 or 50 other people that just want them too. So great time to get it serviced.
Yeah.
What along those lines now, I was talking to Diane before I got here, and then she said, one thing you might want to ask is not to downplay the bikes you buy at Kmart or some of these other ones, but when do you start seriously thinking about spending this kind of ching? I mean, at what age? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, when do you start thinking about buying a good Cannondale or a good Trek versus the Murphy PF Flyer? I mean, when does that occur?
I actually think it starts when you're this big.
Okay.
And it depends on the family. If you've got the first child that's going to be riding, and you plan on having 3 or more, so it's better to probably buy something high quality, 16, 20 inch, because it will last through all 3 of those kids plus. So you get your money's worth there.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
One kid, maybe rough on stuff, I would go to a big box place, buy it, let them trash it, throw it out, buy another one, throw it out. Now, if you're just cruising around town, you're not using it for transportation, those bicycles that you buy in a big box store typically are the most expensive to maintain. We get a lot of them in here that are less than a year old that actually require more work than what it costs new to fix them. So we always tell people, it's not the most economic thing to buy. If you're commuting with it, using it for transportation to get to your job, or if you're using it for recreation, it's best to at least buy something in the low price range in a bicycle shop, which will still get you into the better stuff than what you would find in a big box.
That certainly makes sense. Now, with some of the manufacturers, are there? I did the MS ride recently, and I'm starting to see some different names on bikes. Before it was always Cannondale, and there was Treks, and now I'm seeing some other names.
Now we're starting to see the internet come into play.
Oh, I see.
Now, you probably remember things like Peugeot.
Yes.
And Motobukan.
Yes,
those
Peugeot
old
for
names,
sure.
From Europe.
Schwinn.
Well, companies have bought those now, and of course they market them in a internet atmosphere. They slap the names on them. Well, a lot of these people that you and I remember think they get on there and they say, "Wow, this is a Motobukan or whatever," and order that thinking that they're getting a premier. They get something there, but it's not quite as,
Right.
There is some of them that are very good. There's companies like Cervelo and Pinarello that make very high-end quality bicycles that are sold online too. The thing is, you don't get the fitting typically, and you don't get the service work or the warranty with those, and you have to have it assembled.
And that was the other thing I was going to ask you about when we're going to get to later on is fitting. Like, how do you size a bike? Like, I know that if I can guarantee, if you come in here, you're going to get the right bike. It's going to be the right size. I can attest to that. I've come here, I don't know for how many years now. I can't even oodles. But if somebody like go into one of these box stores, I remember when I was a kid, they said stand over the bike, and if the cross tube isn't making you sing soprano, that's the right size bike for you.
Yeah, and it's on a less expensive bicycle. about an inch clearance on it. But that's something that's under, say, $600. But once you get into the serious stuff, you really should come and do a fitting.
That's right.
And any bicycle shop that doesn't do fittings, that actually measures your torso, your legs, it measures your arm length, and gives you a little quick, like what they call a soft point test of questions. You're not getting there's no value there, because if you're spending $1,200 on a bike, you want to make sure you get something that's an extension of your skeleton.
Right.
And that's why it's important to come in and get fitted. And we take those measurements. We foot measurement, the length of the torso, the arm, and it's all calculated out. So we know exactly the distance between the seat and the handlebar. We know the distance from the seat to the top of the pedal. We know the seat tube angle. We know the frame size.
Right.
And then after we receive the bike, you come back in, we actually do another fitting. When it's on the wind trainer that we talked about, or this fluid trainer, we actually have you ride it for 10, 15 minutes. We have another tool that checks the angles of the hip, knee, and the ankle joint to make sure you're sound, straight. And then, of course, just the basic to watch and see how you're riding, just the position, so we can move or tilt the handlebar slightly. And most people at that time, if they buy clipless shoes, we do a cleat fitting, which is part of a bicycle tuning or fitting to the bike. It's important to make sure that your feet are in the right position.
Yeah, and there's like other equipment too. We'll talk a little bit more here, but that's all important stuff, because you're going to be on this thing for a long time, and if it's uncomfortable. It's almost like sitting on a bad pew in church. It's sloped and wooden. You got to be there, and if it's not comfortable, you're not going to pay attention. It's not going to work for you.
Yeah, I was going to ask just on the fitting end of things. I mean, obviously, I think everybody listening at home would say the seat goes up and down. I know that, but what other adjustments can you make on a bike outside of the seat?
Well, the first thing is to get the right frame size, and we have a geometry charts on all the bikes that we sell. So once we do that fitting, it'll tell us it takes a certain size frame. Say, for instance, you take a 56 centimeter frame in a road bike. Then it's going to tell us the cockpit length. Now that depends on your torso length and your arm length. Bikes usually come in with a 100 millimeter stem. That might have to be changed. Say if you're short-waisted, you might have to change that to a 90 or 85. So we kind of custom fit that so your body, when you sit on it, it feels natural feeling to it.
And basically what you're saying, as far as stem-wise, if you can envision the bike coming up, and the stem is actually how far the handlebars then are away from you in the seat. Yeah.
Because we want you to be in a position to where you're not stretched out.
Yeah.
I see so many people, even with a regular recreation bicycle, they get to a point where they're stretched out so far because the handlebars are high, and you don't think about it, but when you're stretched out, you have a tendency to want to really grip that handlebar. And when you tighten up your hand, all of a sudden you got nerve problems. It's going to go numb.
Yeah.
And after we do it, even with somebody that has a recreation bike, getting the seat high enough is probably the most important thing, and it's probably the most neglected part of the adjustment. We have a lot of people that come in, they sit on the seat, they want to have their feet flat on the floor. You can do that with some bicycles that are called crank forward design or semi-recumbent type bicycles, but it's very important to get your legs straight out, extended to a point. If you don't do that, what happens is when your leg comes up, there's no place for it to go, so it has to swing out. So that turning there is hard on the butt cheeks.
Yes, it is. So the important message here is, if you can underscore, so if you go to Pat and you get size right, usually there's not a problem. You're out the door. But let's say, for instance, your brother had a bike and he handed it down to somebody else, and it might not be the right frame. There are still some minor adjustments, like the handlebar stem or the seat.
Right, we do.
There are some things you can fix.
Yeah, we can do a refit where actually we take the measurement, we do a fitting, and then we bring the bike in and say, okay, it might be half a size or a frame size smaller. We can put extensions on it, we can make a longer stem, we can raise the seat and slide it aft or forward to compensate for that. So we can still dial all those numbers. Once you get those numbers, you can transfer them to any style of bicycle.
Yeah, so that's the important part. So there's a lot of good bikes out there. So if somebody gets a good bike and it's just like, boy, it's just not fitting right, some of the things Pat, said, your arms are extended, you don't feel right, you're twisting, bring it in and they can fix it for you because, this is biking should be fun. It shouldn't be something that's painful and arduous type of thing. So those are all good questions. Now, moving on to equipment. There's a lot to talk about equipment. And so why don't you just kind of, we could talk about all kinds of stuff, but when you like size somebody up or like what are some of the mandatory equipment that somebody should have versus maybe some other luxury ones?
Well, if we decided to buy a road bike,
Right.
of any type or price,
Right.
One of the things we would suggest is starts with pedals, and it's important to make sure that you keep your foot in the same place because envision this a pedal, you put your foot across it. Every time you move that back or forward or aft on there, you change the radius. So it makes your leg either extend out further or not quite as far. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep the foot in the same place. So when we do our adjustment, your leg's stretching the same every time.
Yeah.
So you can put something like this on it, which costs about $20, and it'll keep it there in that place. So when we do our adjustment, it's not throwing it out. Because we have a lot of people that buy inexpensive bikes, and after you do a fitting or you get the seat where you think it is, they'll move their foot forward. Changes the whole thing, so it throws the adjustment. All right. So you can put something simple like this on.
And this
there.
sort of tightens down on your shoe.
Yeah, you can be brave and pull this tight if you want, like the guys in the tour, or you can leave it sloppy like this, like I do or used to. I can't really get used to the clipless pedals yet, so I use these in the platforms.
So that's one way. Yeah, I used to call those cages. I don't know what
Cages, yeah.
Is that? I mean, is that
cages? Yeah.
That's why I'm the host. I know the lingo.
That's old school stuff. You got to remember.
I know it's old school. Anyways, moving on.
Okay, or you can go into something like this. Road bike pedal.
It looks like
lightweight.
mine.
Yeah. This has a cleat that fastens on the bottom of the shoe. Looks like this. 3 points fastening.
Yep.
Road bike shoes.
hold something?
Yeah, if you want to hold this one.
Okay.
Road bike shoes. Usually the bottoms are fairly solid. You can get these in a resin or you can get these in carbon now.
really
Sky's the
light.
limit to what you can pay for these things. Some of them have a Velcro, some of them have a ratchet strap, some of them have the new one that you just twist and the laces it up.
I like mine are Velcro. I got 3 Velcro straps.
Yeah, those are pretty simple.
Those are
to use, yeah.
that's one that I have. They're nice.
Now, a lot of other people like to have something they can walk around in. Now, this is usually used on road bikes. Recreation guys, if they want to use something that's a little easier to walk in, something like this where the actual cleat is smaller, it's a 2-point fastener, and it actually fits so it's flush with the walking surface. So you can get off and walk to the ice cream store or the local pub.
Right.
I shouldn't say that, but it's
And that
easy
twists
to
on and
go
off
to.
just like this one
It
does?
comes off, yeah. It actually works like a ski binding. It has about 6 degrees of float. Once it gets past the 6th degree,
Comes
it
out.
pops out.
Yeah.
Now, it's really important to make sure that these are adjusted correctly. We actually use a laser to do this. And we have you on the stand, the wind trainer or the fluid trainer. We have you ride this, and when the laser line runs up your kneecap, and we can watch on there, we can tell whether this needs to be moved forward, aft, out, or in, just by the way your leg's moving. Now, some people, when they walk, they stride maybe on their left or right more. We can actually adjust these to compensate for that. So this is really important. I've had guys that rode for 25 years, never had this done. Thought it was kind of hokey. Came in and had it done. The next day they came in. Next week they came in to ride with the group. Wow.
What a difference.
What a difference, yeah.
Well,
So it makes a huge difference to have everything aligned correctly.
the other thing, and Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, but the one thing nice about this, and even with the cages, now picture like this is clipped on the bottom of your shoe, and now this is clipped into the pedal.
Right.
So when I know, I guess it's this way.
Yeah, that way.
So you're clipped in. So this is clipped to your bike, and I'm not going to clip it in, but say you're clipped in. So now, if I'm pedaling towards you, right? Now I got this on my other foot as well. So if I'm going up a hill, I'm not only pushing down with this, but I'm picking up with this. So now because my foot is affixed to the pedal, I can be more efficient going up the hill because I'm getting both feet to propel me over a hill.
It's probably going to add about 10 or 15% more efficiency on the opposite end.
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
But
But the secret is when you stop, you got to know how to get out of them quickly because.
Right. I always tell people to squish the yes, don't lift, squish the bug.
That's right.
Just push straight down and twist. And usually it only takes a couple of times, and then you'll learn that pretty quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
A couple
I've,
scrapes and you'd figure
It's
it out.
kind of like the old Laughing Marty. Remember the?
That's exactly what it's
bicycle?
like. That's exactly what I happened to me
That
the other
goes-
day.
I have no
Yeah.
idea what they're talking about.
Well, I was
that goes back to old school again.
coming up to a stop sign on a hill, and I didn't get it right, and it was. Boop. You just
Yeah.
like stay clipped in, you just fall right over. It's not funny, but it's funny. Okay, so those are the shoes. That's an important part.
The other thing is gloves. First thing that hits the road is your hands, and it's a lot cheaper to buy a pair of $20 gloves than it is to go to the emergency room and have all those little gravel stones scraped and scrubbed out of you. Been there and done that.
I bet.
So, good idea to buy a pair of gloves. The new gloves now have a real thin, kind of an ultra thick little membrane of gel in them, so it simulates real skin. So it's not the big bulky ones. They used to make them back in the 80s and 90s early. They used to make these big ones that had, you grabbed a hold of something, it felt like you were holding on to a water pipe, insulated water pipe. There wasn't enough control there. So now with the new ones, they're a lot much more comfortable. They're a lot more flexible, and you can get them in different types of leather, and you can also get the backing in mesh. You can get it in lycra. There's all different types of things. Very important to have those.
Yes, I agree.
Also, most of them have terry cloth. You wipe your eyes with them. They usually only last from the oils in your hands maybe a year, so you want to replace those. They get kind of nasty looking after that. So, water. Make sure you've got water bottles on there. You
Right.
should be using maybe 20 ounces an hour. So a lot of them have braze-ons on the bike, so you can mount a couple of those on there. I don't recommend using like Gatorade, something like that. It's a little bit too sweet. So if you've ever used any kind of the performance drink aids, that's good for recovery. Some of the guys use them during them in intervals. And there's different things you can get. You can get sports beans. They look like jelly beans. You can get little gummy things,
Goo.
blocks, goo.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of good things that you can
Right.
use. Most of them taste nasty, but
They do.
They are good for you, just like everything else.
Pickle juice. They're giving pickle juice out
Pickle
for your
juice will
sodium.
work too, yeah.
Yeah.
We use pickle juice.
And then, of course, we helmets.
Helmets.
Yeah, you're going to get to them, sure.
Yes. Now, I always tell people to make sure, there used to be an ad years ago, and it was Bell Helmets had, if you have a $10 head, put it in a $10 helmet. And I think that was a great ad, because they still,
hilarious.
after
That is fun.
30 years, they still sell $10 helmets at big box places. So you can imagine what those things, the quality there.
Not
Okay.
good.
Most companies, most bicycle companies, and a lot of the aftermarket upgraded companies like Louis Garneau make helmets. Now, this is a Cannondale helmet. Cannondale, this actually was rated really well in Consumer Report. But most of them now have, the lower end price ones, have an adjustable band on them, so you can open and close these.
Oh, okay.
I always tell people to try it on because within brands, the helmet, their shell size inside actually it varies a little bit. So your head shape, sometimes the Cannondales fit, sometimes the Bontraggers from Trek fit better, sometimes the Louis Garneaus do. It's important no matter what kind you get to make sure the strap's adjusted correctly. And usually when you start out, say if this is where your ear is going to be placed, you want to be about a finger below your earlobe with the Y. And that can be adjusted easily here. On the other side the same. And then when you do the chin strap across the bottom, usually about 2 fingers under the chin. Okay. And the reason why that is because usually if you're going down, your mouth's not going to stay closed. It's going to be screaming.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're going to have it open. It'll pull it down tight enough. So, but it's important to make sure it feels comfortable. They're very light. As light as probably a ball cap, close to it. Some have visors. Some don't. The racing community kind of tends to not use the visor. Recreation and mountain biking, that's kind of a throwback from the motocross BMX. Also is the shape. Now, city bike helmets, like for commuting around town, they're shaped a lot like equestrian helmets, where they come down in the back. You're going to be riding slow, you have a chance of getting rear-ended, you want that protection in the back.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, for riding a little bit faster, you need to have this open back on it, so the air flows through it for ventilation. And the shell sizes sometimes will vary. There's one that's above this one that's much smaller than this, but it fits the same inside. Usually once you get up over $60, they go to small, medium, large, and extra large. They actually have specific where this is a universal fit. They're all safe, they're all tested, but I would try to make sure you buy one that's a name brand quality one. Now, some of the big box stores sell stuff that's sold in bicycle shops, but it's actually the marketing. It's made for mass market, and it's got the same name on it. So it's one of those things where you're better off if it's on sale for $9.95. You probably should
Not buy it.
Yeah.
And don't buy it, if it matches your bike or not. You don't buy something that's
Yeah,
going to be efficient.
sometimes we have adults that want to match bike colors too, but
Just
you
something that's
can
going
get
to
it pretty close.
Yeah. Now,
Now, just before we go off of the bike helmet, just out of curiosity, from a safety standpoint, I mean, do those expire? I mean, I'd imagine that.
That's a good point, because they say that you shouldn't use these over 4 years.
Okay.
Because the styrofoam in there is designed to deteriorate after a certain point.
Yeah.
It's not going to be quite as strong.
Certainly,
after that. Yeah. I still have people come in with the old hard shell ones, and I've even had some people come in with you remember the ones they had with Lycra on top?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that they didn't use very long because they found when they hit, the Lycra bunched up and twisted you, so they got rid of that. So.
Sounds like I need a new helmet. Mine's
Yeah,
old.
the new helmets are really nice and they're comfortable. We sell a lot of these here, and I think a lot of times it's because when you buy one, you stick it on your head, you can ask somebody, does this fit right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
we crank it down, say, hey, try this one on and see widthwise, lengthwise if it fits good.
So some of the other things that, maybe, from a safety standpoint, we're going to talk into more detail later too, Pat, but I want DJ too, whatever. But I know that when I ride, I put my contacts in, and depending on the day, I bought a nice pair of sunglasses down here that the frames, but I could have clear, I could have amber, or I could have sunglasses. So it's always important to have something
Something in your eye, yeah, covering your eyes.
from a
Safety.
windshield. And
Yes.
I bet I got hit with
Bugs.
3 bugs the other day.
Yeah.
So something not to overlook that way. The other thing too that I haven't got on my bike yet, and the guy I was riding with kind of strongly urged it, but a mirror, I guess, to see if you're riding by yourself. What's your thoughts on that, Pat? To see behind you.
On a road bike, you can get the type that fit into the end of the handlebar. They're kind of an oval shaped.
Right.
They make several different kinds of those. There's one that actually has almost like real glass in it. Some are just plastic polished. Those work well. They also have them for the eyeglasses. Those are a little tricky.
I
to
would get
concentrate
dizzy.
on.
Yeah, I don't know how that would
that's-
work.
Some people love those.
Like they're out here.
Yeah.
They do make a great one for a mountain bike and hybrid bicycles that's actually a real glass mirror. It's called a mirror cycle, and if it's in the end of the handlebar, it articulates a couple different
Right.
directions. And it gives you a nice big 3-inch round panoramic view of what's
Right.
coming. That's almost a must. And if you're riding the trails, our local Ernst Trail or the Sandy Creek Trail, the Justice Trail in Titusville, Oak Creek system, it's a good idea to have some type of a bell. Now, I never had a bell when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but when you're riding in a group like that, a lot of times on a bike you're pretty quiet. And I know that we get a lot of people say, but that guy rode right up on me and I never heard him coming. So it's a good idea to put even just a small bell. And you can get the little teeny ones, they're little brass ones, or any style of a bell to put even on a road bike. And that's a great idea to have something like that too. Just to keep somebody in front of you from not turning around to see
Right.
what's coming and running in, or
Right.
sliding into the side of you.
Now, how dangerous can it be for the novice person to go out and buy? I see over here behind your counter a bunch of tools. You got tools that can straighten out your spokes. You got tools. Unless you're really going to be hardcore, you should have. So, what kind of basic tools, like little Allen wrench? What if somebody was, going to?
You really, say if you want to do a little kind of a survival package type thing.
Right.
Folding Allen key set, which has like a 1.5 through a 6. Most of them have a little screwdriver, or sometimes you can get in trouble turning things.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
If you're comfortable with changing the tire, a patch kit, they make new CO2 cartridges that will inflate them quickly. You should carry a tube, the right size tube, with you, an adapter if you need that. And then I always tell people to take a piece of milk jug plastic about the size of the width of their tire and cut that out, just plain milk jug plastic. And if the tire gets cut, you can actually lay that in there, in the cut, and then inflate the tube back in it. Because if it's over 1/8 of an inch, the tube will come back out through it. So it's a little survival thing.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
The other thing that's a great idea is take an old washcloth or towel and cut about a 4" by 4" piece so it fits across your 4 fingers. Put that in your survival kit, because if it goes flat, the first thing you want to do is shove that in there, and you go both directions. The terry cloth loops will catch whatever's in there, so you can actually push it back through. I have so many people, they say, I fixed that thing 3 times and it still goes flat. Well, the thorn's still in it, so you got to take that out. So instead of running your fingers in there and cutting them,
The cloth will catch on.
the cloth catches
That's a
it.
great
You can
idea.
push it through with your.
That's a good
pointed
idea.
tools.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, moving on. Do we have anything else, DJ?
I guess maybe from I know you're probably not advised to be biking at night, but if you come across and think you might be somewhere in dusk or darker area, I'm assuming there's some sort of safety things that you can do from that end of things, as far as whether you're wearing on your body,
Right.
something on the bike, things like. I notice a lot of times you may be in the early morning and knowing that it's going to be light in a few minutes or 20 minutes or so, but maybe when you get started, it's a little dusk or dark.
Well, the state law requires you to have some type of artificial light on the front from dusk to dawn.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what's really neat now is they make some fantastic lithium type batteries for these lights, and these small lights, which are not much longer than maybe 3 or 4 inches long and about this big around, will last for 3 hours on a charge. They start in the $20 range, $25 range, and then they also make the flashing rear lights for them. A lot of people now are using the flashing whites, which most of your headlights have a flashing strobing style.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was coming in on 86 a couple days ago, and I passed somebody, and as I passed them, I looked in the mirror. They had theirs on,
Yeah,
and you could see it a quarter of a mile away very easily.
Wow.
Coming down the hill, still flashing. I think that's pretty important. The other thing is, a lot of these helmets now, some of them have the highlights in them.
Yeah.
Same with your clothes with some type of a reflective material.
Reflective material, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good idea. Most of your shoes now have it on the back side of it. Most of this stuff is actually reflective now.
We saw a guy doing the MS. He actually had on his helmet, it was a red triangle flashing in the back, and then across over the peak
Yeah.
of his helmet, he had the little white.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we sell those here. We have the little triangles.
they were like flashes. So is it? But there was a ton of those on there. I mean, we were riding, and there was a lot of people with the flashing lights, and we were in the middle of the day. It was overcast, but it like Pat was saying. I mean, you look around and you can see it for a while.
Yeah. At night you can see those from a long ways away.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they
Yeah.
don't have to be real powerful either.
Right.
Again, moving on. We're not going to take a break. We're just going to cruise right through. We're getting this all done. You'd mentioned PA stuff. Let's go on and move on
Yeah.
to safety. Talk a little bit about what Pennsylvania requires. Talk a little bit what Pat Emig requires.
Well,
so to speak.
I think there's common sense things
Yeah.
for adults especially, because I get the question, do I have to wear a helmet?
Well,
Okay.
no, you don't have to.
If you're under 13, you have to wear a helmet. That's the state law.
Okay.
Okay.
Under 13.
And most of the time, if you're under 13, there's a lot of programs that you can get free helmets in Bill here. So there's really no excuse not to have a helmet on.
That's the truth. Good
Okay.
point. Good point.
Over 13 years old, there should be some common sense there
I would
about,
think so.
especially when you get older and it gets harder to heal, to have that thing on. I've got a couple people that if they needed to talk to somebody about wearing a helmet and what the effects are if you get hit without one on it, we could set you up with
Yes.
a little interview there. So it's important to make sure you have it on there. Even if you're just riding along and come to a stop, just falling over. We had a gentleman here
Yeah.
last year that took a spill up towards Waterford, and thank goodness he had his helmet on because he went down hard. There was loose gravel, and you can never tell on these intersections whether you're going to have gravel stones or
Right.
the pavement's gone or missing or holes or whatever. So it's important to do that. Making sure when you're riding that if you're riding in a group, you try to stay in single file, not in a pack that takes the whole. I think that sometimes angers the traffic to start with. State law says that you have 4 feet. You have to pass within 4 feet. You can actually pass on a double line, if there's no oncoming traffic. So you have that 4-foot rule there, but you have to stay at least 4 feet away from the cyclist, and they have about 4 feet of the road. So the scariest thing is to have somebody pass you moving at 50 miles an hour or faster
Right.
within a foot, because even the wind will blow you off. But if it gets, I always do the kind of common sense thing. If the traffic gets really bad, you're better off just to pull off the road for a minute, let it clear, and keep on. It's not worth the
Right.
weeks of
Yeah.
recuperation.
Or the 5 minutes that you'll ride that much faster that day.
Right, yeah. Wet conditions, we always tell people, when you're riding in a narrow tire, even the fat tires now, your braking distance is going to be a lot longer. And of course, sometimes you get oils and stuff on the road after it rains right away. Good idea to take caution in that as well. Debris on the road.
And do the car hand signals apply?
Yes,
if
you have to still use the hand signals like you would
if you're
on a
driving
home
a car.
car.
Yeah. Do you know those out there? We've had trouble in town here, 4-way stops. I bet right now, you can't do all 4 hand signals. I don't even know if there are 4. There's left,
Yeah.
right, and stop.
Right.
There's 3.
There's
And it-
probably
So if you
another-
answered yes.
You're in trouble. You really
there's
should.
probably another hand
There's
signal.
probably another hand-
Yeah, right. Yeah, there is a fourth one, but it's
There is a 4th one, but this is a family show. We're not going to get to that hand signal here
Right.
today. But anyway, see if you know the hand signals without cheating. Okay, go, and then, so,
And if you're not familiar with these, we have these at the shop. The
Yeah,
state,
that's what-
actually
yeah.
the state provides these to us. It's a bicycle driver's manual, and it's got a lot of really interesting things in it. Riding in groups, riding around those notorious
Rotaries.
new rotaries that we have.
Oh yeah.
we're getting 3 more, I guess.
Yeah,
322.
so it will
Here.
look a lot like the aerial shots from the tour when they go around those.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
sure.
does.
So
Now, what's the rule about riding on sidewalks? That's a no-no?
that's like driving your car on the side.
That's a bad etiquette
Yeah,
thing.
not a good idea. There is places though that will let you do that. In Franklin, they actually let you ride.
No,
on the
no
sidewalk.
kidding.
But their sidewalks, if you've been down there, are 15 feet wide. So they're a lot wider than what we have here.
I
Right.
gotcha.
But the rule is that you're not supposed to ride on those, especially when you see just down the street here 2 years ago. I seen a kid riding on the sidewalk. The light turned. He rode into the traffic and
Oh, boy.
T-boned this poor old lady in her LTD. So
Jeez.
it was.
Yeah, you got
Yeah, you got to stay off. It's the same thing as a car. So, you have to abide by the rules. No weaving through traffic. No coming up alongside the cars at a stop sign or a stop light and then continuing through on the red. You have to obey the same laws as the.
Yeah, and that makes sense because you want to be respected by the drivers. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to have those. They got to have figure out what they're doing and that kind of stuff. All right, very good. That kind of covered some of the etiquette thing, but the other thing too is, I guess DJ, you have another handout here about Ernst Trail. I think somewhere. Here we go. Some places, other than I know Ernst Trail is a really nice facility. I mean, there's even a picture of it looks like a dad and his little daughter riding on there, but that's a nice off-the-road type of flat type of thing.
It's
and-
about, I think it's 6 or 7 miles right now.
Right, they did a nice job making that.
Some of it, most of it's paved. There's a section that's gravel, and it's got a beautiful bridge on it.
It does. It's got a lot of
that
good
we
things.
spent
on it.
hundreds of hours on.
It's a nice thing, that
yeah.
Ernst Trail.
It is.
And then for, I guess for more of some of you competitive people, I know that there are events around like the Tour de Tamarack, the lake that used to be. I guess they're going to put it back someday, aren't they? Tamarack?
I hope so. We'll have to change the name.
Yeah, Tour de Mud Pie.
The weeds or something.
Tour de Weeds. Tour de Weeds. It's going to be a Swedish event. It's the Tour de Weeds. But anyways,
That's a great event, though.
It is a good
That
event.
actually was started. It was a memorial race for a friend of ours that raced for us, Mark Mangle, that
Okay.
at 18 years old suffered a massive heart attack when he was riding.
oh
Actually,
jeez.
he was a great guy. He used to race for us years ago.
Yeah,
But it's a good event.
this is actually a race.
It's a race.
Yeah, now that's different than like a lot of times people in town here will say, well, what's the MS thing? And that's usually something that I ride in, and that's a ride. The guy even tells you it's not a race, it's a ride.
Right, it's a benefiting something.
Yeah,
They
you're
have
raising
those
money,
Quite
yeah.
a few places. MS
Right.
does it in up in Warren County.
Yeah.
Cooks Forest.
Cooks Forest they
Yeah.
did, and then I just got done doing one from Hollidaysburg to State College and back. They do another one, Mason-Dixon. You start out down south of York a little bit, and you ride. It's a returner. It's a boomeranger is what I call it. You go out into Maryland and back Saturday, and then Sunday it's a little shorter ride. Yeah, and there's like I believe 4. And the Keystone Country Ride is what I just got done doing in Pennsylvania, which was kind of nice. So there's this event, and then the other one that, of course, is get a little bike in it if you're into the triathletes. Of course, you got the Dam Tri.
Dam Tri.
And one of the nice events that used to be, Pat and I were talking to DJ a little bit before, used to be the Tour de Crawford County. That was a good event where you could pick a different loop. Pat, and DJ, you probably might even answer this better than I do, but there's a lot of electronical things. Like there's something out there called Map My Ride. Is there you can get routes off of that?
Yeah, I guess I don't know how much you can talk about those or not, but I used one. I don't think it was that one. I think it was I can't remember the name of it specifically, but an app for your iPhone that'll basically tell you progressively as you're going along. It'll tell you your speeds. It'll tell you everything, and then it'll consistently you can mark things down as you go on from day to day, and it plays your music for you. The whole deal. So you recommend any of those or know of any of those in particular that are good or bad?
Riders that come in that use that.
Yeah.
A lot of them use Garmin's.
Yeah.
Garmin's a great company. They make stuff that's very similar to that. Those you can get with a power wattage output, heart rate monitors. I always call it the electronic leash because their wife can sit at home or maybe their husband
Know
can
where
sit
they're
at home and know exactly where they're at.
That's just pretty funny.
We teased a couple of riders about that.
That's pretty good.
Or you can get something that's as cheap as $25 that wires on, that works very well.
Yeah.
It gives you miles per hour, speedometer, odometer, tripometer. Sometimes you have to kind of think about having a $700 piece of equipment hanging on the front of the bike. If it gets knocked off,
What's going to happen to
it's
it?
awful painful.
It is awful painful.
But there is a lot of good things. They're very accurate now. A lot of them actually do temperature and altitude. It tells you the altitude you climb during the day, heart rates. You can monitor that for the ride, and it tells you the altitudes, so you can kind of map your ride.
Yeah.
Right, so to
What
speak.
it is, yeah.
So let's get a little bit more about the exact location here again. So you're at the corner of
State and Grove.
State and Grove,
Yep.
and your hours are of operation?
This time of year, we're open on Saturdays from 9 to 2, and then during the week, Tuesday through Friday, we're here from 9:30 to 5:30. If somebody would like to come in and talk bikes, I mean, if they have to come after hours, we can do something with new bike sales after hours. Usually in the fall, we cut it back to 2 days a week. We're not really too busy that time of the year, and usually 2 weeks will fill most people's needs.
So when you say the fall, I mean everybody can point to a calendar. To me, fall, September, and first part of October.
We usually, this year, we're going to probably start September 15th. We're going to do it a little earlier than normal. You would think that'd be the busiest time because September and October are beautiful 2 months. That's not a lot of humidity. The bugs are not as bad.
Yeah,
Good
it's a
But
little
it's
cooler.
actually one of the two slowest months of the whole year. But it's a great time to be on a bike. The leaves change, and we got
Sure.
great trails through these mountains that are south of us.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's another. Yeah, I forgot one. There's a couple up in the area that around the lake.
Prescott.
Yeah, Prescott. The other thing too, though, is talk a little bit about. I know that sometimes used car dealerships that they have like a stock. So at the end of the year, prices change. I mean, is that the same with bikes? I mean, do you have
Well,
different years on bikes?
What's happened in the past 10 years is the bicycle industry started to follow the car industry. So they started coming out with things in June and July. And that's it's been hard for bicycle shops to have new product come out right when in the middle of their season when they're trying to move 17s and now the 18s are out.
Gotcha.
So a couple companies actually understand what we're complaining about, and they changed it. Cannondale's one of them. They actually decided they're not going to do. They're going to do a calendar year now, and they're actually going to make current model availables, no model years on a few things, which is going to help us a lot. So there's some changes going in the bike industry, which I think are better.
Yeah, again, just to kind of summon things up again, if you have any questions about a bike, trust me when I tell you, Pat's the guy to know. I mean, the bikes are a specific machine, and they're going to act as good as you treat them. I mean, just don't start spraying anything on that you think it's a lubricant, because some lubricants attract dirt, and it's actually depleting the cost. So, I mean, it's just defeating what you need to do. So, unless you're really taking interest in it or whatever, but this is one of those things that I always defer my bikes to Pat. I bring them down here, he tunes me up, he keeps me on the road, and so you can really get yourself screwed up by making a wrong decision, like Pat said earlier. People want to turn screws, and before you know it, you're messing up.
Yeah. A lot of that last week. Home repair turned into
you just gotta watch
major catastrophes kind of thing. So.
All right, very good. Well, I'll tell you what, it was appreciate you having you on the show. Thanks for introducing us into your digs. Yeah. So, what's your phone number here, Pat?
It's 814-333-1235.
Perfect. Yeah. So there we have it. So it's definitely a good place to go to. So yeah, we're just going to kind of shift gears a little bit. I'm getting the high five here from our producer, and we don't have much time left, but. We're going to talk a little bit about we're going to switch gears here and go to the mark and curling. What's going on here?
Yeah, so the Meadville area rec complex, that recreation complex, the mark as we all know it, is going to be starting some curling coming this October. The catchphrase is kind of a good one. Fun is just a stone's throw away at the mark, which is what the objects are called that you actually use for curling, those of you who don't know. There's a Winter Olympics coming up here. We will certainly be participating as the United States in curling in some sort of way, I'm sure, and hopefully competing against those northern folk usually are pretty good. But nonetheless, I digress that, so Wednesday, October 11th, Wednesday, October 18th, and Wednesday, October 25th. Each session will be from 7 to 9 p.m. It looks like a registration fee is about $15. I would imagine you can contact the rec complex to go ahead and register yourself. It looks like it's just dress warmly, loose-fitting clothes, and soft-soled sneakers or shoes. And all equipment will be provided for just the $15 fee. So come on out and support the rec and get your stone throwing on at the rec complex.
Yeah, who knows? That might be a future show. So, Pat, again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll go from there, and DJ, I'll let you take us away here.
Yeah, and again, just a sad note here that we just from our family in particular, and obviously everybody else, just thoughts, condolences, and prayers and everything to the Tyler Learn family. Just a life that was cut short just this past Saturday. That he's just under 30 years old, and just it got cut a little short, and we just wanted to put our condolences out there, and we're thinking of everybody there. He played on the state championship team with me my senior year as one of the players on the team. So just want to send our condolences out there, and we appreciate everything you did for me, Ty. Good friend for our family and all of everything, and again, condolences to the family.
And with that, we'll see you next time.